Happy day. So thanks everyone for sort of listening in today. So yeah, I'm Hugh McCluskie. I'm one of the goalkeeping coaches at Wolves Women, and we also do our RTC, which is for those not known in the women's game, that's essentially the equivalent of an academy, and we work in that. So today's set, my background in is I've been a goalkeeping coach all my days. I've done my B license outfield and my A license goalkeeping. I've done them through the FA, so the FA, and it's just changed, so I'm slightly out of information possibly. But the FA say you've got to do your outfield badges, to do your goalkeeping badges. Like I said, it's slightly changed. You used to have to do your UEFA B before you did your goalkeeping B, and then you could then go on to do your goalkeeping A. But I believe they've changed it now, so you only need your level 2 before you do your goalkeeping B. But to do your A goalkeeping, you have to have your UEFA B outfield. Hopefully that makes sense. But essentially, that's what we are as goalkeeping coaches through the English FA. I must admit, it's completely different through the other home nations FAs. If anyone decides to go through those routes, and I know the Welsh FA, for example, I don't think you need any of your outfield badges, but so it is slightly different. But that's the way the FA does it. I'm not trying to spin bits, but when I was starting my initial coaching pathway, I was massively against it. I was like, why do I got to do my outfield badges? But as I progressed through my coaching pathway, I'm massively a fan of it, and I think it's the way ahead, and for reasons that I'll discuss in the presentation, hopefully. I also realise I've got a funny accent and speak far too quick. So if anyone says or thinks, "Whoa, you need to slow down," just pipe up, please, because it's a 2-hour presentation that I'm getting into an hour. And that is only a joke, by the way. Hopefully you don't really say over to us. Cool. So that's the aim of this afternoon for the next sort of 40 to 45 minutes, and then allowing time for questions. It's to really provoke your thoughts on how you use goalkeepers within your sessions. When there's no goalkeeping coach, when you've got a specific goalkeeping coach for your team, and possibly you have one goalkeeping coach who does multiple ages. So just so I know roughly what everyone is, what do people have on the chat? Do you have a specific goalkeeper coach for yourselves, or do you have one that you shared? What's everyone got at the minute?
Yeah, guys, just jump in the chat and let Hugh know. So Kenneth has a specific goalkeeper coach.
Cool. Happy days. So hopefully this will provoke a bit of thought how you work with your goalkeeping coach then, and if not, then it's something to think about, because how do you incorporate your goalkeeping coach? So if you've got no specific coach, then we'll hopefully give you ideas of how to integrate your goalkeepers so it gives them something that's goalkeeping specific. There's a little bit coming up in a minute. If you've got a specific goalkeeping coach, how do you use your goalkeeping coach? So do you just say kick them off to compost corner and say, right, where you go, and I'll see you in an hour when I'm going to do shooting, or I'll see you in an hour when I'm going to do a phase of play, or so on and so forth. So that's really interesting to see where everybody is on that one. Cool. So let's move on then. So that's what we're going to talk about. The why. Why do we want to work with goalkeepers? And I'm going to put in how we play. So this is what we look at Wolves for our goalkeepers, and what we want our goalkeepers to do and play. And that will hopefully seed the thoughts of how we then incorporate our goalkeepers. And it does seem quite long-winded. I'll try and go through it as quick as I can, but it's to essentially show you this is a goalkeeper we want, and therefore that's how we design the sessions to work with the outfield, with the goalkeeping coaches, and incorporate them all together. So that's hopefully just a nice introduction for everyone. So why do we want it then? So let's be honest, goalkeepers are no longer the strange people of the past, where they were a bit weird, and they sort of kept themselves to themselves, and they used their hands. I mean, that's just crazy. Goalkeepers are now massively part of the team, and then the term that keeps getting thrown out is if the goalkeeper is now the 11th player, which probably to most of us now seems absolutely logical, but obviously maybe 10 years ago the goalkeepers were never ever really included as a part of the team. And if I was to ask people, I'll do a bit of an experiment now. Then I'll do it now. Can you give me can you give me your formations that you play, please? So everyone so far has put 4-3-3, brilliant. That's only 10. 4-4-2, 4-4-3-3. Again, that's still only 10. Or 4-1-4-1, that's only 10. And that's not me being, no, he's being really picky. That's to prove the point that when we all do formation, oh, someone's caught me out there, right? Yeah, it is, yeah. But that is essentially what we and we all do it. And as a goalkeeping coach, if you said to me, "What's your formation?" I'd go, "We play 3-5-2." But we all do it, don't we? We all say, "Yeah, it's a 4-4-2," or it's a, and we never ever say, "Yeah, it's a 1-4, it's a 1-3-5-2." I do it to annoy my gaffer because it probably winds them up. But essentially, we all do it. We always refer to it's a 4-3-3. So that's the point of this sort of thing, is say that your goalkeeper is actually part of your team, and please use them as such. And again, if we look at the modern game, the statistics are out there. Goalkeepers nowadays use their feet about 80% of the time, compared to around about 20% using their hands. So to get that goalkeeper as part of your team, to get them using their feet, and let's look at the best distributors of the ball from a goalkeeping point of view at the minute. You're probably looking at your Edersons. I mean, his distribution is just unreal. As much as I don't like him as a goalkeeper, Jordan Pickford, his distribution's unreal, both out of hands and from the floor. And you can see teams, the likes of Man City exploiting that. So they play around from the back, and then if they see something, then he will go very direct, very long into the striker and possibly and beyond, to allow them to counter-attack in that manner. So you need to be able to develop your goalkeeper to do that, and that's not necessarily a 10-by-10 area where the goalkeepers just get volleys and shot stopping. And that's the point, is that we need to develop a goalkeeper who is a little bit of everything, and that's not easy, by the way. And we always talk about different types of goalkeeper and what they bring to the game. So that's the interesting one when we look at the modern game and how we use it. But we also need them to understand the game, both technically and tactically. If we're wanting to try and suck a team out, because we've got a rapid striker as an example, and we want to suck a team out so we can play around the back and then possibly look to play in behind that back four, then you need a goalkeeper who is technically good enough to do it, good enough to have that accurate pass, but an accurate pass of maybe 50 to 60 yards, but also tactically aware to know what's going on in the game. And there may be points where you don't necessarily want to do it. You know, it could be the 85th minute of the game and they're sitting deep. Well, actually, we're going to hold on to the ball so that we do suck them out because we're 1-0 up, but there's only a couple minutes left. So you need to develop your goalkeeper in that manner as well. And again, that all links into that being part of the team. They are goalkeepers now 100% part of the team. But we're still a little bit weird, aren't we? We still want to go and do our own thing. We still want to go and dive around and get muddy. But we still need to ensure that whilst we've done our muddy bits, that we come back in and we do the what you would probably class as your phase of plays and your pattern plays and so on and so forth, to ensure that that they are ready for your tactical elements when they play out. And that's what age groups then you're looking at then. So we could look at that definitely adult, definitely down to 16s and 14s. And even the younger ones. Some of the best goalkeepers, and I've been very lucky to work with a few, some of the best goalkeepers I worked with played out until around about 14 and then decided to be a goalkeeper. So again, that's that using them in that manner to allow them to develop with their feet, but then they move just into goal later on, and they have that technical understanding, they have that tactical understanding. So it's a weird one at what age, but the main thing is ensuring that your goalkeeper is part of your team. So how do we want to play? This goes back to what we said. This is how we want our goalkeeper to be at Wolves, and hopefully to sow some thoughts for yourselves, how we want our goalkeepers to play so that they can then be essentially part of our team. So I don't know if everyone's seen this before. It's very much the FA model, but we use it quite a lot, and it allows us to have a common language amongst the staff, so that if I say I want my goalkeeper to play beyond, that's obviously into this area and this area here. That if I say, I think we should play beyond at that point, that the outfield staff know what you're talking about. I want to play round, or through, that the goalkeepers know what you're talking about, but the outfielders know what you're talking about as well. So what does this, all nice fancy words, what does it actually mean? So in the support area, essentially we're looking for the goalkeeper to be a pivot, to essentially be a deep number 4, if that makes sense, to allow the goalkeeper to act as that pivot, to play through, to break press, sometimes actually just to go maybe onto or into or even beyond, depending on their ability, but having that confidence to leave that goal mouth, to leave that 6-yard area, and to actually get in around the box. And that can be a challenge depending on your goalkeeper. Some goalkeepers get very much tied to that goal mouth, and it's giving them that confidence to move away from it. So play around then. So you're looking essentially to go from your left back to your right back, essentially, just to try and either move the opposition to retain possession, or just to give a different picture. But again, it's that sort of round the back 4s element that we're looking through, which hopefully then will allow the spaces for you to play through. And that's normally into a centre midfielder or even a centre back who's pushed on. And hopefully that allows you then to break that first line of a press, or indeed just to break that first line of an attacking unit, which hopefully then allows you to obviously go further up the pitch. And then obviously into, also what's the difference between into and onto? So into is essentially a clipped pass into feet. So we're looking for a nice clip pass into, if it's out in these areas out here, we're looking obviously fullbacks, or possibly a deep winger possibly, and looking to play into the feet. So if we're playing into it, so that they can control the ball easily, and then essentially we retain control possession to move further up the pitch. If we then look at playing onto, essentially onto is that we're playing onto a probably a slightly higher winger, possibly one of your wide forwards if you're playing a 4-3-3. Again, I've just done that again. It should be 1-4-3-3, obviously. Where was it going with that? So you're playing it, but essentially we're now looking at it may not be a pass that is easily controlled. So it could be a clip pass that we're looking to flick on, or it could be into a chest, but essentially it's a pass that's a little bit more floated, and again looking to break lines. So we're looking possibly on the onto aspects, maybe definitely the attack unit, possibly the midfield unit, into that space between a defensive and midfield unit, but it may not just be the most controllable passes. And then we're looking at the beyond. Essentially that's the example we gave earlier with Edison, where we're looking to essentially clip it beyond the back 4. And depending, again, this is very easy to sit here and say that, but again, it very much depends on the ability of the player. We would, and I'm going to relate this very much to the women's game just very quickly. We would love to have a goalkeeper who can play beyond, but without being to sound disparaging against our female players, most of them cannot do it. I've only played with 2 or 3 who can accurately play beyond a back 4. Most of it tends to be onto, and that sort of distance, especially from the floor. From hands, you can play beyond, not a problem. But if it's on the floor, you're probably playing in the onto area. And we would rather have accuracy. So we'd rather have that it gets there the majority of the time, rather than it looks like someone's hit a shotgun pass and you're sort of praying that it gets into that area. So we're looking at that element of the women's game. And again, going down towards the more junior age groups, a 12-year-old is highly unlikely to be able to play beyond. And if they are playing beyond, that is one player to keep your hands on. But again, it's giving them that concept of how it can be done. Out of possession model then, again, we look at the elements from the FA, but it's essentially the first and utmost priority of a goalkeeper is defend the goal. We all want the goalkeeper to keep it out of the net, and that is absolute sacrosanct. So no matter what we discuss with our goalkeepers, their first priority is always keep the ball out of the net and defend the goal. So that's your shot stopping aspects, your looking at your 1v1s, your blocks, your smothers, those sort of aspects. But essentially is keep the ball out of the net and defend the goal, just as a very, very fancy way of saying it. Then we look at defend the area, so moving sort of 6 yards out towards the edge of the 18. And that's essentially then crosses. Dealing with crosses, is the goalkeeper confident to come and deal with a cross? is the goalkeeper confident in being away from that goal mouth area to defend the goal? And then we're looking again at possibly at that point again a little bit more on the 1v1, but that's probably going to be more in the smothers rather than the blocks, and the different techniques that are associated with that. And then the support element, defence space is next. And defence space is how high a line do you want as a goalkeeper, and how confident are you as a goalkeeper to defend the space behind the back four? And that then will go very much in accordance with your philosophy, and it can be very much personal to the team. So we give a very simple model to for our younger goalkeepers. So if it's in our defending third, probably around about no further 0 to 6 yards, middle third of the pitch, sort of 6 to 12 yards, and then attack third, 12 to 18, and possibly 18 plus. But again, that's just a very, very simplistic model that we try and use just to give pictures in the goalkeepers' heads. We don't expect them to be at those places at all times, and there's a lot of context goes into that. But essentially, defend the space is that ability for a goalkeeper to come out and clear a ball, and hopefully allow us to get possession back quicker, which then goes on to the support element. Even though we're still out of possession, we still want that support element from our goalkeeper. But in out of possession, it's probably going to be more along the lines of information. So you've got 2 players on your right shoulder. Just be aware. No pressure on the ball. Turn your shoulders. Can we squeeze 5 yards? They've moved backwards, and all that sort of tactical information that the goalkeeper will give to their back four. So we look to deliver that and allow them to get that information out. But we also don't want war and peace. So you want it to be concise and succinct, but in a manner that the outfielders understand as well. So again, going back to what we use. So for something as simple as crosses, we've got 3 keywords, which is away, keepers, and safe. Away is obviously I'm not coming. That's your problem, defender. Get rid of it for me, please. Keepers, I'm coming. Get out of the way, because if you don't, it's going to hurt. And safe is essentially, look, the ball's going over the byline. Let's not waste any energy. And we try and keep it that short so that it makes it nice and easy. But there are also words that are understood by everybody. So throughout the goalkeepers and the defensive units, we've got those 3 words. So as they move up the age groups, they all know how they all interlink. And essentially, you're not moving from a 14 to 16, and she's having to learn a completely new language. Has anyone got any questions in that so far? I realise I've been on transmit for about 15 minutes. Cool, I'll move on. So we know what we goalkeeping DNA. We all love a good DNA these days. This is our one at Wolves. A picture's dropped out there. That's a bit disappointing. So obviously, the 4-corner model is kind of moulded into a 5-corner model now with the tactical element. And this is very much what we're looking for at the first team. We have adapted it for our youth age groups. For example, we're not looking, I'll try to think of one very quickly. So the social element, towards our younger age groups, we're probably not going to get an effective communicator. And I'll come on to each bit in a minute. So we have adapted them for the age groups, but essentially we've said to our staff, this is what we want as a Wolves goalkeeper. This is how we're going to try and develop her, and each age group then has different aspects that fall off that. So if we look at the technical elements, so a shot stopper, that's essentially what the goalkeeper's there to do, defend the goal, and that's we're after that. So how do they move around the goal? Are they efficient with their movement? Are they able to move around the goal efficiently but effectively? And what does that mean? That sounds very fancy. So they can go from one side of the box to the other without being with an efficient movement. So they're not crossing their legs and looking like they're about to fall over. It's a nice. It just looks like they're essentially gliding across the goal. And that's that efficient movement, and the effect of it is that they get there at the right time. So that's what we're after. Distribution, I think we've talked about. Everyone now wants a goalkeeper who can distribute a ball, and we're essentially looking at someone who, for our point of view, is very comfortable with the ball at the feet. We want to almost encourage a press, and at the right moments then switch play if we can, and if we can't, then we'd hopefully go into and onto, and if we can, beyond. So we're looking at a goalkeeper that can do that. competent and consistent. I think we all want that. Tactical then, so looking at tactical elements, we want a goalkeeper who understands the game and where they are in the game, not just it's, you know, it's or we're playing Nottingham Forest at the weekend in the FA Cup, and that there you go, there's my game understanding. No, we want a goalkeeper who knows it's the 60th minute of the game, where we're drawing on each, everyone's going a little bit head rushed. I'm going to slow the game down. I'm going to have the ball at the feet. I'm going to relax everyone, and we're going to play nice football to calm it down 5 minutes before we maybe go and do whatever the next phase of the game is. So that game understanding for a goalkeeper is absolutely key. And we also want them to be a little bit aggressive. Not that they're going to walk across the pitch and smack someone, but we want someone who is aggressive with their start position, aggressive with their going for crosses, aggressive with 1v1s and going and getting the ball. So we use the term aggressive because everyone, it's that we don't want someone who's physically angry. We want that, yes, I need to be further up. Yes, I need to do this. And that's what we mean by aggression. And that, again, is something that we try to develop. We don't want angry 12-year-olds, but we try and get it into our 14s and 16s, that we want you further up the pitch. We want you to be slightly higher in your box. We want you to be slightly higher with your start position, so you can do that, defend the space, so you can support your back four and indeed maybe the midfield on wherever phase of the game we're on. So we do want someone who is slightly aggressive. The 11th player we've already talked about, without a doubt. It is something I think all teams these days want. So that's the big one. And again, we're going to look at the problem solver. We as coaches can't always deliver solutions, especially during games. We can't walk around the back of the goal and go, hey, you might want to think about this, or your positioning was slightly off there, you need to take a step to your right. They need to be able to work it out themselves. So in training, and that has to be reflected in your training sessions. How do we do that? Well, we make training sessions, again, and this will come on to the psychological aspect. We try and make them comfortable being uncomfortable. So we make the training sessions in the stretch zone, and when they don't like it, we ask them why. And if something goes wrong, we ask them why. We try and get them to solve it. If they can't solve it, then we will give the solution, or we will give them a myriad of solutions. So we try to take an example. Dealing with crosses, might not like coming out through a unit of players, but that's fine. So how are you going to solve that? Well, I might not go for the cross. Okay, so now what are you going to do? Well, actually, I'll sit deep and go and get ready for the shot. Okay, that works, but we want you to go and get that cross. So what might you think about? Well, actually, I could give earlier communication that I'm coming. Oh, okay, what would that do? Well, that might allow me, the players, to move slightly for me. And okay, and that's them, it's doing the thinking, but you're giving those little bits of information. So they say, no, I'm just going to charge at the ball and I'll just take everybody out. Might go, ooh, stop there. That's, yes, you're problem solving, but that's not the solution we want, because we'll probably concede 13 penalties in a game. So you need to temper it. So you allow them to develop the solution, but temper it so that it gives you the outcome that you want, or the outcome that you would rather have. Sorry, not necessarily you want. The physical elements. If anyone's got an S&C coach, very much I'd sit down and chat to them. S&C coaches are brilliant, absolutely brilliant at what they can deliver for you. But, and this is a really big but, and especially for goalkeepers, goalkeepers are not outfielders. We have slightly different needs for our S&C. We don't need to run 10 to 12 kilometres during a game. In fact, during a game, a goalkeeper will be the least physically exerted than they will be during the training week. And that comes with different complications. So how do you train that? Well, we train at a ridiculously high tempo for goalkeepers, but during the game it's nice and chilled. So therefore, your conditioning needs to be along those lines. So we don't need them being able to do a 5-minute 1K run. We don't need them being able to do 100-metre sprints in 10 to 15 seconds, because that's not what they're going to do during a game. We need short sprints, without a doubt, where they're covering 15 to 20 metres possibly, maybe slightly longer, depending on where the ball is. We need power in the legs for diving and for going for crosses and jump heights. We need them coordinated, because we need the hands to interact with it. So it's, it's hand-to-hand coordination, but it's also then your mind to legs coordination, and there's all sorts goes on there. And we also need to be physically robust. So anyone who's laughed at a goalkeeper going, "Oh, you lot don't train hard," and you throw a striker in, within 2 minutes, they're normally picking themselves up with bruises up and down their sides because they've been diving around like idiot. So they need to be physically robust to do that. And again, diving down at people's feet, diving in and around the goal, and again, being able to jump, catch a ball, but probably still getting hit by a person needs that physical robustness, increased core strength, and that's, I'll use the term bravery to go and physically go and get a football, which brings me nicely onto the psychological element, and the bravery bit is in there. You do need to be a special kind of idiot to be a goalkeeper, and I'm saying that as a goalkeeper. It's a very specialised position, probably, and there's not many people you would say go and throw yourself at a striker's feet and see what happens, because that's something that we don't tend to want to do, because there's that natural fear of being kicked. But again, you're asking your goalkeeper to go and do it, so you generally need that bravery. And we talk about comfortable being uncomfortable. There's that stretch zone, that stretch element. We want them to be comfortable in their stretch zone, and we therefore need to train them accordingly. But to get into that stretch zone, we need that self-analysis and reflection, and that's something that we try and instill in all our goalkeepers. That so we use we try never to use the term criticize or that negative. We try and use it as even better if. What could you have done that would have made that even better? What would make that, if you were to do that again, what would you do different to make it better? We don't try and focus on the negative. And whilst that sounds very pink fluffy, it tends to get a better response from the players. If you're going to go, that was wrong, and you need to do this, the chances are they're not going to be part of the process. So we try and use wording in our reflection that allows us to get that out of the goalkeepers. But that also goes back to knowing your goalkeeper. I've got one goalkeeper, if you say you were awful on Sunday and this is why we're doing the session, you can almost guarantee she's not taking part in the session. So you need that, and that goes back to the next point of resilience. You do need that resilience in your goalkeepers, where, and it's a horrible thing to say, but goalkeeper makes a mistake, it tends to end up in a goal. And you need that resilience, because you may never touch the ball again for 30, 40 minutes, possibly, if it's one of those games. You need that resilience to delete that 30 seconds and to have that, it's gone. I'll deal with it in training on Monday at the analysis and training on Tuesday, but it's gone. And then you deal with whatever comes next at you in the game. Because if you let it annoy you and you let it get in your head, it will just creep and creep and creep, and something will happen. So we generally need that resilience and that ability to go, it's gone. In the social element, then, we're very taught being a part of the team. I've talked about being an effective communicator and a talker. So we don't want someone who's just going to sit there and rabbit like I'm doing right now. We want someone who's able to talk and talk with respect, talk to sit and half going, just use me, I'm here, just play it back and it'll all be good. But if a goalkeeper, and we all remember the days, maybe not all, some of us remember the days from the late 80s, early 90s, we had that. Bruce Gobbler was always one. Peter Schmeichel, what a goalkeeper he was. But you remember that they used to always go and scream, and you could see them probably getting in everyone's faces. Are those days gone? Is there a time and place for it? That's a whole other webinar in itself, probably. But it's more important to say this is what we're trying to develop, is someone who can go, can you do this for me, please? And that goes on to the respect element. And we have a three-way respect for yourself, respect for the coaching staff, but respect for the other players as well. And that allows, hopefully, that being part of the team and that good social element. So that's what we're trying to develop, and that's the goalkeeper we're trying to look at. So how are you going to incorporate your goalkeeper? If there's a goalkeeping coach available, which someone says that they've already got, absolutely brilliant. Goalkeepers will always need goalkeeping specifics. Again, because there's not many players on the pitch who can use their hands. There's not many players who have to keep the ball out of a large area. So goalkeepers are always going to need their own goalkeeper-specific sessions. The big one, especially from a goalkeeper and coach perspective, is please, 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 and I reiterate this to our own staff, please, 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 plan accordingly. Don't go to a goalkeeping coach who's probably planned for a 45-minute session and need the goalkeepers in 5 minutes, because all you're going to do is annoy him and annoy the goalkeepers or hers. So please, at least plan together, understand what you're going to do, and at that point, then you over your however long your session is. Let's say it's an hour-long session. If you say to your goalkeeping coach, "Can you just warm the goalkeepers up? I want to do this type of session," and then they're straight in with me. it allows him to or her to plan accordingly rather than that surprise on training night. The other thing is that, and that goes. The other thing is just don't try to work together as a team. Sorry, do try to work together as a team. So if you have defending from wide areas as your topic for your session that night, let your goalkeeping coach know, because if he's planning on doing 1v1s, it's not really going to incorporate into your session. So if you say, look, I'm doing defending from wide areas tonight, what do you think? Hopefully he'll come back going, no worries, Gaffer, I will plan for a crossing session. Please can I have this type of area, and how long do you want the goalkeepers? And then he will have the goalkeeper ready for your defending from wide areas, because they've done crosses, that have done how to deal with that position and how to influence the defenders. And when it comes in, it means that you're not then having to coach the goalkeeper within your session. Hopefully that makes sense. If there's no goalkeeper coach available, what someone says as well, try and think about how the session is going to develop the goalkeeper and how you're going to make it enjoyable for him. We always think about how we make the session enjoyable. If you put a goalkeeper in there in a part and play for 45 minutes, I guarantee the goalkeeper will not enjoy the part and play because we hate them. Let's be honest. I mean, probably as players, absolutely hate part and plays. As coaches, they've 100% got a time and place. But for a goalkeeper who's probably stood still for 20 minutes, it's not the most enthralling of sessions. So try and work out how to do it. How would you do a part and play involving the goalkeeper? You can make him a target player for the strikers. You can do all sorts to try and do it. And then that's just something to think about. And then how do you incorporate your goalkeeper coach? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as I said earlier, goalkeeping coaches are not just goalkeeping coaches. We're not just freaks who catch things. We have got other things that we can do. Most of us will have an outfield background. So can you use this to help yourselves? And that's just something to think about. So I've got a little task for everyone. So just a couple of minutes. How would you incorporate your goalkeeper? So it's a position. So you've turned up. Your goalkeeping coach is stuck in traffic, and you've got a goalkeeper, but you're planning on doing possession. So you're planning on doing a possession-based session. Let's say you've got 1 to 2 goalkeepers. How would you use your goalkeepers during that during your possession-based session, and how would you keep it realistic? So how many, just out of curiosity, would look at a session that looks a little bit like that? Goalkeeper in the middle, acting as a floater, and what would the pluses and benefits be? So that's maybe a thought there. So and it goes back to the point. So the next one, I would say I'd prefer to see that personally, and it goes back to that point. That was a great point, that it's a 180-degree vision. So they will be using their feet majority of the time, but it's a 360 because we tend not to do it as goalkeepers. The goalkeeper's got 360. They're probably a little bit further up the pitch than they should be. But it is that sort of thought-provoking of the bottom one. Can you use a session like that where the goalkeeper's got 180-degree view, acts as a floater for let's say the goalkeeper on the left? So this goalkeeper would act essentially as a floater for the Reds. Excuse me, to allow them to pivot and switch. But then also this goalkeeper can act as a target player for the Reds, so that it gives them something to actually play into if they need to. So that's one element. Whereas in this session, the goalkeeper acting as a floater, they've got the opportunity to play in 360, which we don't tend to do as goalkeepers. I'm not saying we never will, but it's that tend to. So that's just something to think about, is if you're going to use your goalkeeper in a session, how do you keep it realistic without a goal? But then hopefully at some point you'll have goals, and then you can move into sessions where it's essentially a small-sided game, and you've got your goalkeeper maybe operating a goal, working as a traditional goalkeeper, but they've got other things to think about. They've got floaters in there, they've got all sorts, and there's loads and loads of ideas. But the big one for me personally is trying to keep it realistic, trying to keep it as was discussed, that receiving poise for a goalkeeper. Goalkeepers tend to get the ball in front of them and allows them to either take a nice positive touch to either switch play or possibly go sort of through, or even indeed go beyond or even onto. So it's how do you keep it realistic for that sort of possession-based element. And transitions is always something that's interesting for a goalkeeper. So that was mentioned, that look at transitions massively, because if a goalkeeper is higher up, let's say edge of 18, support and play, and there's transition. They have to then drop to provide deeper support, and again defend the goal, which is the first thing. It's the big priority. So that transition from into out of possession is massively key. So that's really good that everyone's thought that. So I'm going to hopefully look at the goalkeeping coach now. So that's how we incorporate our goalkeeper. Hopefully, nice and easy. Just keep it realistic. Make sure it's game realistic movements and game realistic passing. And that way, the goalkeeper will have fun. They'll see it as a challenge because they've got to try and play with their feet, and they've got to then move the ball nice and easy around the pitch. But it's that how do you keep it game realistic when you're trying to do a possession-based session? And again, it depends on areas and what size area you've got as well. So what's your goalkeeping coach? So how do you use your goalkeeping coach? If you've got one, indeed. Is a goalkeeping coach only for goalkeepers? I'd 100% argue that actually in this day and age, a goalkeeping coach is actually a football coach who specialises in goalkeeping. And I know that sounds very, very strange, but most goalkeepers will have played the game. Most goalkeeping coaches, all goalkeepers hopefully have played the game, but most goalkeeping coaches will have played the game and will understand it. And will also understand certain things, mostly defensive, let's be honest, because most goalkeepers and goalkeeping coaches probably don't really know how to cross a ball in the style that a winger does. We can cross a ball 100%, but that beating a player and crossing it's probably not something we've ever done. But we understand how a defensive unit works. We understand how that defensive midfielder works. So what else can you use them for? What can they do? Can they coach other units? Can you use the goalkeeper, goalkeeping coach, to coach your units and work as part of an MDT, multiple disciplinary team? And we tend to do this quite a bit, where the goalkeeping coach is either given the goalkeepers, strangely enough, or the goalkeepers and the defensive unit, and told to work with them either as part of the opposition management or indeed as part of your session. And the example might be, again, I'm going back to crosses again. I'm trying to think of another example. Playing out from the back. We're looking to play out from the back. You may give the defensive position, the position of the defenders and how they act to the goalkeeper coach. How the goalkeeper then will distribute the ball to the goalkeeping coach, and the in possession coach may then look to work with the midfield units and the forward units. And that therefore allows you to, as an outfield coach, to concentrate on those elements that you want to concentrate on, which may be actually your two wingers, but maybe your midfield forward, that centre midfield rotation. But the goalkeeping coach will do the defender bit for you, which allows you to get those specific coaching points out to your element that you wanted, such as the midfield three, for example. And it allows you to concentrate on that, and the goalkeeping coach will do those other bits for you. It is difficult, by the way. It's not an easy thing to do and plan, and you need to make sure that the in possession coach and the goalkeeping coach are agreeing the coaching points. So if the goalkeeping coach says no, just smash the ball into the 9, where actually the outfield coach wants it as into the 4, then you need to probably discuss that before the start of the session. And again, that goes back to the planning element that we discussed earlier. And if you can discuss that with your goalkeeping coach and how you're going to work that, then that's ideal. And then he knows that actually you want the 2 centre backs to go wide, you want the 2 full backs to go high, one maybe higher than the other, and then he'll work with the other bits, and then you can work with them and how they're going to receive the ball, what the goalkeeper then does, provide support when they play out, and so on and so forth. So it's not just working with the goalkeeper. Set pieces. So I do all the set pieces at the club, both offensive and defensive. And that's just one of those things that I've taken on. Again, from a defensive point of view, it's relatively easy because we've kind of done it for most of our playing careers, and it's just not that natural progression into it. So defensive set pieces is I wouldn't say they're easy, because when one goes in the back of the net, you can guarantee who the gaffer is going to speak to. But they are really easy to sort of work on and think about. And then offensive one, you just be as crazy as you want because you're the goalkeeping coach, so everyone just expects it. But set pieces is something that's easy to pass into your goalkeeping coach and allow them to do it for you. It gives you more capacity as an outfield coach. And again, coaching within the game, we kind of discussed it with the coaching from other units, but allow your goalkeeping coach to coach the goalkeepers within the game. Allow him to coach maybe another unit if you've discussed it within the game. It's just about freeing up capacity for yourself. and you know, two sets of eyes are always better than one, and allow he or she may see something that you haven't, and it may be actually the two centre backs are too wide, and it means that it makes it obvious we're going into the four. We need them to just maybe be a bit more compact, or actually they're too compact, and we need them to actually, you know, spread out a bit more. And those little things that he will see that will help you with your session plan. So, and just allow them to do that. Or indeed they can manage the opposition, and that just depends on what your sessions are. Hopefully this video works. So this shows, this is a playing out from the back session. This is at my previous club last season. And we're playing out from the back. We were getting ready to play Liverpool, and this is the Liverpool set up in that manner, and this is how we were going to try and play off the back. So this would be that fat man here. That's the goalkeeping coach. These are two of the outfield coaches, and that's the manager. And this was our setup to try and play out against Liverpool, and how we were going to do it. So hopefully, remember this kicks back in. We were then working as a team and how we were going to do it. So weirdly, I'm now going into, so the gaffer's coming across, and this is me, and I'm now going in to engage with two centre halves. So we didn't want the two centre halves in the same line. We wanted one slightly higher, one slightly deeper. Reasons for that are said that we'd hopefully encourage the press onto this one, because it would be a bit obvious it would go in there. So it would allow us to then play out. Weirdly, the manager is now speaking to the goalkeeper. So goalkeeping coach talking to centre halves, outfield coach is talking to the goalkeeper, and we're just looking at how we set up. Two full-backs relatively high. We've got a midfield three here, and allowing us to provide those rotations. And essentially, that's what we were going to do. We then looked at something else in a minute, which allowed us to hopefully beat that press. So we were essentially going to set up where it looked like we're always going to play it from the back, and we're always going to do that. And then at one point, then you can see, and we didn't tell the guys in pink what we were going to do. So they've all just started to creep forward. And so I've said to the goalkeeping coach, the goalkeeper, there you go, just play into the 9. She's got outstanding distribution. So we just said to her, go on in, just hit it. If they press that high and leave that gap in behind, then go for it. And it gives them something different to think about. And that was us working as a three-person team. And you can see how then the goalkeeping coach is actually influencing the outfield decision making. So it's just something to think about. It's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just something to think about. This is a bit of a longer one, so I'm going to try and skip forward. So this is our set pieces. Again, it's using the goalkeeping coach to do the set pieces. So that's what it should look like. This was going to go horribly wrong if I do this, isn't it? Oh, there we go. So this is that fat man is me, goalkeeping coach. Got my two outfield coaches, and the gaffer is somewhere. I can't quite see him. And we're essentially doing a set piece session, and it's me that's running it as the goalkeeping coach. And we basically said, right, go on in, you've got to play 5 passes, and then you get a set piece of your choice. And we're letting them work out how to do it. So the set piece, so that was working the defensive set pieces. So defensively, we're looking at how we would set ourselves up, and we're giving the attack team here all the joy in the world to go and do what they need to do. I'm trying to skip one because it is a long video. That's what we're trying to do. There you go. So done the 5 passes, bit of competitive element. They get a bit of paper and pick, and then they get whatever set piece comes out. And I think hopefully this one is the free kick. So, oh no, it's corner. So then we set them up accordingly, and how we want to defend set pieces depending on who we're playing that weekend. Also then managing the game. So you wouldn't have, in this instance, they're creeping further and further forward, and this is the goalkeeper. You would never have your goalkeeper that far up pitch, hopefully at set piece. May do, but it depends where it is in the game. But essentially, that's what we're looking at, and then how we would defend these set pieces, and how we do it slightly differently. And that's, again, being run by the goalkeeper coach. Hopefully, I've not bored you to death, and I'll take any questions.